Yes. Welcome, everyone. Cannabis News. I'm your host, Joe Klare. It's January 9th, 2020. The show, as always, is presented by the Marijuana Times. Find us at marijuanatimes.org. Click the video tab there to find the show. A lot of great articles as well covering the cannabis community, industry, and beyond. marijuanatimes.org. Today we're talking to your children about cannabis. Also, the governor of Ohio is not a fan of marijuana legalization, which comes as no surprise to many who are well versed in the subject or even ever heard him talk about marijuana at any time. And marijuana related emergency room visits are up in Illinois after legalization. We'll talk about all of that coming up. But first, of course, Cannabis News is brought to you by Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic all-natural pesticides grow safe and poison-free with Natureside. Don't use banned chemicals or just awful, yucky stuff. Don't use yucky stuff on what you're growing. That's right. It's the technical term. Yucky chemicals on what you're growing. Be regulatory compliant. Don't use banned pesticides. Use Natureside instead. Nature-side.com, a proud sponsor of Cannabis News. Thank you, Natureside. It's first story. By yours truly at marijuanatimes.org, talking to your children about marijuana. This is something that comes up every now and then. It's something that I've written about before and talked about before on the show. Now with legalization in Illinois, a Chicago newspaper had a talking to kids guide that they published a few days ago, basically to coincide with legalization, and parents who may be struggling with what to tell their kids. Sadly, this article didn't help them any. Uses a lot of cherry-picked studies about marijuana leading to psychosis and mental illness and all kinds of things that have not been proven at all. There are contradictory studies at this point, at best. Also an increased risk of suicide, they say, and they even mention the gateway theory. They should tell your kids that using cannabis will lead to harder drugs, a theory that has been thoroughly debunked over and over and over again. The fact is that the vast majority of people who use marijuana never go on to harder drugs. So, and look, you can tell your kids whatever you want. You can lie to your kids, you can convince them that Santa Claus exists till they're 26 years old. I don't care. It's not my problem, personally, how you raise your kids. Lie to them all you want. Have a ball. But be ready for the consequences of that. If you lie to your kids about marijuana and they find out, which they will, because, the internet, then they're either going to think you are stupid or ill-informed, at the very least, or maybe even worse, an outright liar. Neither of these scenarios is going to build trust with your children, with you. If that's your goal, if you want them to believe what you tell them, then lying to them about marijuana is not a good thing. And harping on how dangerous marijuana is to the exclusion of other things, which just about every other substance or behavior known to man is going to be more dangerous for them than using marijuana, then you're going to push them in that direction. Say, well, I really can't do this marijuana, but, maybe this unprotected sex, so maybe some heroin or some coke, whatever. At least it's not marijuana, right? The fact is, most parents will tell you that if their kids are going to experiment with anything, they want it to be marijuana. So the safest thing, they're not going to die. But again, you want to lie to your kids, whatever. That's your thing. Your problem, if you will. But I would advise against it, because they're going to think you're full of crap about other things. You try to tell them other things are dangerous, they say, well, you said the same thing about marijuana. And, I found out that was bunk. Bull hockey. That's right. Pardon my French. I'm sorry. I don't normally use that kind of language on the show. This next story from clevescene.com. Governor DeWine says legalizing marijuana for all Ohio adults would be a mistake. And as I said, anybody who's ever heard Mike DeWine talk about marijuana knows he's very much against it. Recreational marijuana use is now legal in both Michigan and Illinois, but don't expect that to happen here on Governor Mike DeWine's watch. In an interview this week, DeWine said legalizing marijuana for adults would be a mistake. The governor told the Ohio Public Radio State House News Bureau, wow, that's a mouthful, that today's marijuana is more potent than in the past and could pose a health risk for young people. But Matthew Schweitz, deputy director of the Marijuana Policy Project, said for years we heard about the gateway theory, which I just talked about, that consuming marijuana means you all of a sudden want to consume harder drugs. That's been thoroughly debunked by experts. The real gateway is prohibition. Prohibition forces people into an illicit market where there's a far, far higher chance of them being exposed to harder drugs. When I talk about the regulations and such that will keep younger people away from cannabis and having to go to, elsewhere to buy their marijuana or whatever. At least the younger adults, the teens, they'll still have to go to a drug dealer, which I'm not going to get in the argument about whether the age should be 18 or 21. It's whatever. It's going to be 21 more than likely in most places in the United States. And I disagree with that. I think it should be 18, but it's neither here nor there. There's not much I can do about that. In any case, you know what? I'm sorry. These politicians, and I know I've said this a lot, these politicians, these lawmakers, we make these people believe, by the power that we give them, as much as we ask their opinions on these things, that we need them to guide us through our lives. What? Why should I care? Why should anyone in Ohio care that Mike DeWine doesn't think they should be smoking marijuana or using marijuana legally? So what? I'm sure a lot of people have that opinion. Who cares? But he's governor and he has so much power. We've given these people so much power that he can decide. No. You're going to remain a criminal. Smoke a joint in your house? Criminal. Not infringing on the rights of anyone else? Don't care. Criminal. But that's our fault. We've told these people for years that all the politicians and the lawmakers, that they're the smartest and the best among us, but they're not. They're just not. I mean, I don't want to just delve into name calling here, but these are stupid people. These are stupid people who can't make it in the real world. So they get into politics. Because that's not the real world. That's phoniness and fakery and just lies. Lie after lie after lie. These people are not the best among us. The best among us don't go to public service. They don't go into politics. They just don't. They don't go into government jobs. They just don't. People who are great at things don't go into the government where there's no consequences for their actions. They don't. And that goes for House members all the way down. Incumbents win most of the time, no matter how inept or ineffective or incompetent they are. They can't survive in the real world, so they go into politics, because that's not the real world. And there's much less consequences there for being a buffoon. And for those of you who disagree with that statement, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong that politics isn't the haven for buffoonery in this country and around the world. For people who just can't make it. They can't make it. These people can't make it. Mike DeWine can't make it in the real world. What's he going to do? He'd be some low-level lawyer chasing ambulances in Lima, Ohio or some such crap. But in politics, he's the governor and he's so smart and he decides whether millions of people in Ohio can use marijuana. Even if he was as smart as we think he is, or we've made him believe, or that some people may believe he is, it still doesn't give him a right to make these decisions in people's day-to-day lives. But to make it worse, he's not. He's not. He's an idiot. He doesn't know anything about marijuana. And yet this is the guy in Ohio he's going to make the final decision. People say, this is such a great system, and this is just, we got the system locked down, and we just need better people in the system. No, that's not it. I'm sorry to burst your bubble. There are no better people in the system, and even if there were, that would make the system work better. The system where strangers control what you can do in your own home, that's not a good system. No matter who's in charge. It was Gandhi and Mother Teresa, president and vice president. It's not going to work. Again, I'm hollering into the wilderness, as they say, on these things. But I will continue to do so because, I don't much else to do. It's that story. From ABC7Chicago.com, weed-related emergency room visits up after legalization in Illinois, according to doctors. They talked to some emergency room doctors, and they said that there's been a rise in emergency room visits. Dr. Trevon Thompson from UIC Emergency Medicine. So New Year's Eve through the 1st, we were already seeing some patients who were overindulging on cannabis. I've worked several shifts since the new year has started, and I'm seeing a cannabis-related incident just about every shift that I've worked so far. The University of Illinois at Chicago Medical Center has treated several patients experiencing cannabis-related illnesses. And I'm not going to make fun of cannabis-related illnesses. Cannabis-related illnesses are really just you use too much cannabis. You probably shouldn't, and you'll be fine. You just got to ride it out. Anyway, what they blame it on is a lot of novice people using edibles. And I'm not going to discount that. We've talked a lot about how when it comes to like flower and such, legalization has less of an impact than it does with edibles. Edibles are time consuming, they're effort. You need effort to make them. You need a couple hours or whatever if you don't have a magical butter machine or whatnot. And a lot of people in that situation will decide just not to make the edibles. But if you can go to a store and buy an edible, a cannabis edible, well, that's much easier and more people will do that. So consumption of edibles will rise under legalization, maybe a lot. And that's going to cause people to go to the emergency room. We talked about edibles just yesterday, and we've talked about it a lot before. The necessity of knowing doses and waiting and calming down and going slowly and not 20 minutes after you eat a brownie saying, oh man, this crap don't work, I need another brownie. Don't do that. Anyone who's ever used edibles will tell you, do not do that. If you ate a brownie and you don't feel anything, just sit there. Wait to see if you feel something. Don't eat more edibles. But what this article does not mention, not one single word in this article, is that maybe, just maybe, these people who are using cannabis and are feeling ill effects from cannabis or the effects that they don't want to have, they're more likely to go to the emergency room under legalization than they would have been if they were afraid of getting in trouble for using marijuana. If someone 2 years ago got high on a marijuana brownie, they didn't go to the emergency room because they were afraid of getting caught. They probably just wrote it out and they were fine, or they did something else. Now these people, it's legal. They say, well, I ate this edible. I ate too much. It's legal. I'm cool. I'm going to go to the emergency room. See what they can do. See if they can help me out a little bit. Not one word about that. Which is one of my problems, one of my many problems with the way establishment media, mainstream media, covers cannabis. That's an easy angle to think of, but they don't. Don't ask an emergency room guy if, well, maybe more people are coming in because they're not scared of being arrested as they may have been before, or facing some other kind of consequences for marijuana use, consequences that are no longer a thing in Illinois. And maybe now they're more comfortable with coming to the emergency room with their problems. But as far as edibles go, I'll repeat what I said yesterday. Just calm down. Calm down. And I noticed one of these things I have to mention, because they list the things, the most common symptoms: heart palpitations, which can be scary; anxiety, which can be very scary. But one of the most common symptoms is restlessness. Restlessness. Is that really an ailment? Restlessness? I mean, I guess. But come on. The doctor also said in some cases we were seeing full-on psychosis, agitation, hallucinations, saying some people needed to be sedated. There's no data at all. This is all anecdotal or whatever. And again, I'm not discounting the effects of edibles on some people. But, I mean, prohibitionists will use something like this to say, well, see, marijuana legalization causes more people to go to the emergency room. We're talking about a minuscule number of people who are not going to die. They're just not going to die. Remember what they feel like. And it can be horrific, I'm sure, but you're not going to die. And in the end, maybe you've learned a valuable lesson about eating too many edibles. One, just sit there. Just sit there. Don't. I know everyone wants everything quickly. Well, edibles is not an MP3 download. That's right. That was a pithy line. I'm going to end it on that note. I'm going to end it on a high note. Thanks, everybody, for checking out Cannabis News. We're here 5 days a week, of course, marijuanatimes.org. Subscribe on YouTube. Search the Marijuana Times there. Thank you to Natureside, nature-side.com, and their organic, all-natural pesticides. Thanks to all of you for liking and sharing and commenting and spreading the truth about cannabis with this show. We'll see you next time right here on Cannabis News.